Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release, Lisa Frankenstein, and I'd seen kind of a mixed review on this one. I saw a lot of film goers actually loving the film, but a lot of kind of movie critics just being kind of middling about the movie. So I can see where people love it, and I can see where people don't love it so much, but I personally thought this one was pretty solid. This is a good one in my opinion, and I'll obviously talk about why this is a no spoiler review because it's new, but let's get into it. This film is directed by Zelda Williams, and yes, before people start guessing, that is the daughter of Robin Williams. Unfortunately, we lost many years ago. That was shocking when it happened, by the way. But Zelda Williams, I have to say right now, very promising director here. I have not seen anything else from her prior to this, and this makes me to believe that she can be a force when it comes to the film industry, and I really hope that her trajectory continues because I saw a lot of good things directorially in this. If I can get this right. Anyway, Zelda has done such films as Shrimp, Kappa Kappa Die, and lots of music videos. Written by Diablo Cody. Some people may be like, oh, I recognize the name, but what did she do? Juno, Tully, and the best of the best, Jennifer's Body. That's the best film she's ever written, in my opinion, even though Juno was also really good. I didn't see Tully. I heard it was good. But Jennifer's Body is a vastly underrated film that actually was very much ahead of its time. It was kind of, well, I don't want to go too far into it, but if you haven't seen Jennifer's Body, watch that film. It is outstanding, and it's just a shame that it didn't get the attention it deserved when it initially came out. This film is actually set in the same universe as Jennifer's Body, and when you're watching it, it makes sense. I knew that going into it, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, this feels like it takes place in the same universe as Jennifer's Body. Jennifer's Body is a better film than Lisa Frankenstein is, but it's not by like leaps and bounds. It's by, a little bit. This is available on Peacock for anyone who has a Peacock streaming service. I do not. I just went ahead and got it through Fandango at home, which people also know as Vudu. $6.35 for a rental, and well worth it, in my opinion. So quick synopsis. This is obviously a take on the old Frankenstein's monster tale, and it is an interesting update. It is a unique take. Always with these movies that kind of mine really old material, really old films, and really old stories, I'm always looking for something unique. I'm looking for something new. I'm looking for the writer or director or writer and director's own spin on things that feels kind of fresh. And I would say that this actually does that for me. There are so many times, especially with, I'll give an example, zombie films, where it's just kind of like, ugh. It's just a bunch of, it's the same with all these movies that you end up seeing. This one feels different and fresh, and I would like more films like this. And actually, it makes me think, because this is said to be in the same universe as Jennifer's Body, can we get another movie like this in the same universe that is werewolf? Because there aren't enough good werewolf films, and Diablo Cody writing a werewolf script, count me in. Although I'd take whatever. So the quick synopsis, obviously, Frankenstein's monster story, but it's about a teen in high school. It's very much like a coming-of-age film about a girl who just does not fit in and is having a really hard time in life because of everything that's transpired. She lost her parents. She's living with, or she lost her mother. She's living with, I believe it's her father and stepmother and her stepsister, and it's not going the greatest. So she she hangs out at the cemetery a lot, and she falls in love with one particular gravestone that harbors someone in it with the name of Frankenstein. And one night, lightning strikes, and the body is reanimated, and it kind of goes on from there. I don't want to say anything else after that, because it is a fun ride. It is basically a horror It's not a straight-up horror comedy, because there's not a ridiculous amount of comedy. It's not the focus of the film, but it is a horror comedy. It feels, even though it's not, a little bit PG-13-y, but it's not. It is an R, but pretty good. The opening credits have really cool animation that gives you a whimsical feel, and I do feel like that kind of whimsical feel is captured throughout the film, and part of the reason that is Well, it's a bunch of things that kind of go into it. The score is a big part of it. That gives it this real whimsical feel. Obviously, this animation for the opening credits sets you up to kind of have that whimsical feel. I think the dialogue and the characters give you that whimsical feel, and the lighting really does that. Which actually, now that I'm looking at it, the lighting that I use for the backs of my backdrop of my videos, it would very much feel at place in Lisa Frankenstein. So you know what? Maybe my videos are also in the universe of Jennifer's Body and Lisa Frankenstein. Consider that. Anyway, being stupid. This oozes 80s, and I'm all about it. It's set in the 80s. It's a very 80s style. There's a lot of 80s talk in the dialogue. I mean, it fits coming from Diablo Cody, knowing that individual's age, that it would be an 80s thing. I am a sucker for 80s set newer horror films. Well, 80s set newer films in general, not just horror. But that's because, I'm a product of the 80s. That's when I was born. So yeah, it just oozes 80s. The characters are well written and the dialogue is quite good. That's one of the things that Diablo Cody has always been extremely strong at, is dialogue. Dialogue feels realistic. It helps with the relationships between characters big time, and it just sounds great. A lot of really good quotes that end up coming up, and that obviously dialogue can help a lot with the comedic aspects when you're trying to have humor in a film. So, well written. The color usage for lighting is fun, like I was talking about. There's a lot of like bright pink and blue and green that ends up getting used, and it's just fun. Like I said before, it adds to that kind of like upbeat, whimsical feel to it. There is a good amount of humor, and it works quite well. And that is one of the things. There are a lot of movies nowadays, and for the past many decades, that have been kind of trying to be like, we're going to be primarily this, but we're going to throw some humor in there because that's what people like. And it just doesn't work. With this film, it does work because the stuff that's thrown in there, some of it's like legit funny, but some of it's kind of like cutesy funny. And I think the majority of it is more like cutesy funny. But it's, yeah, I like how it's done. The film looks quite good. There are lots of cool shots and some really great set design. Also, some really good costuming as well, going back to the whole 80s thing. But there's also another aspect of the costuming I'm not going to get into. Practical effects are pretty decent as well, I will have to say. So the overall look of the film, it has this really nice kind of sheen to it. It looks wonderful. There's a musical number in this film that actually feels very over the top. It feels like, I wouldn't say it quite doesn't fit. It doesn't quite fit. It does kind of fit, but I think the way it's done and how overblown it is just feels like way too much. And it kind of takes this film from being like humorous to being just like over the top. It's just, it's way too much for me. It becomes more of like a parody of itself in that moment. And I kind of wish they would have toned that down or just not had it because they didn't really need that scene in particular. And I will have to say that this film does suffer from some pacing issues. And part of the reason is it's like an hour, I think with credits like an hour and 41 minutes. And it's just too long for what this film is, in my opinion. You really do get, especially in the middle, a bunch of scenes that kind of feel like they're trying to nail home the same thing that they've kind of already nailed home. And you're just like, okay, we're getting repetitive here. Let's, get things moving. But it's not too terrible. I do think this should have been shaved down maybe 15 minutes, maybe 10 to 15. The lead actress's performance, I think, is up and down. There are times where she's doing a great job, and there are times where she's not doing a great job. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's times where you're like, I see this character, and then there are times where you're like, it's like a person just doing lines. And that is problematic for me. It did really take me out of the film from time to time. It's probably one of the biggest issues I end up having with the film is that performance needed to be a lot more solid because it's obviously focused on this one character. Not exclusively, but it's their perspective, And she's in it a lot. The music used in this film is great. There's some stuff from the 80s. There's some stuff from the 90s, the early 2000s. It's a really awesome hodgepodge of just really good music. Whoever chose the music, potentially Zelda Williams, did a phenomenal job, and they have wonderful taste in music. I love how they end up marrying the songs up with scenes as well. Very well done. The ending is okay, but it also kind of feels like it's missing something bigger. They could have gone bigger. They could have chosen to have more impact. It kind of ends with a bit of a whimper because it feels like it's building towards something. And it builds towards something, but it's not something great or something to the level that you think it's building to. So kind of unfortunate there, but it's an okay ending. The last thing I want to say about this film is I view this as a Frankenstein film, or Frankenstein's monster film, I should say, for people who like Stranger Things and is directed very much like a Tim Burton film. That's also an aspect of that kind of whimsical feel. It looks and feels kind of like a Tim Burton film via Stranger Things, which sounds kind of weird, but yeah. So my mix, Frankenstein's monster, Stranger Things, Tim Burton. Does it sound good? You'll probably enjoy it. It's a good flick. Anyway, out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I thought about only going 3. I was very much in the middle between 3 and 3.5. So no, if I gave quarters, it'd be 3.25. But officially, I'm going to knock it up to that 3.5. I think it's got enough going for it that it deserves that. So yeah, this is where I'd love to hear from you. Have you seen this film, and what do you think of it? Go ahead and put it in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you in between on it? Just let me know. Also, do me a favor and hit the subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would appreciate that. That's your best way to motivate me to keep this stuff going, because obviously I'm basically doing this for free. A lot of free content out there. You can hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, and if you can do the thumbs up on any of my videos, that helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I appreciate that. Regardless, I really do appreciate you taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.